God wants to break a chain in your life. He wants to break some bondage that's happening in your life. He wanted to break some bondage in my life. And I don't. If I tagged you on Facebook, raise your hand. If that was you. How many of you guys I didn't tag, but you saw it this morning? Oh, you didn't even see it, man. Something crazy is about to happen. It's going to get crazy up in this place. Okay? I'm just saying, if you're prone to tears, grab a tissue. I'm going to get like really deep theological for just a minute. Like you're going to be like, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know. And if you don't understand me, just be like, I'm just going to wait till the end because it'll all come together, I promise. And it's going to make sense. So if you're not deep theological thinker and it goes over your head, it's okay. I promise it'll come back to really, really simple and really, really understandable. Okay, and I'll do my best. The first service, I spent most of the time trying to figure out how to make it simple. I think I figured it out now, so. All right, but this whole entire series was about this idea of being blessed and how to live a blessed life, how to live a life where God is pouring out heaven on you, and we've come to this conclusion. But what's been amazing about this, you guys heard some of my testimonies last week about what's been happening in our life, both with the house and my children, my family, and how close they've gotten to God, but some of the most amazing stories I've heard this week, and I just want to share a couple of them really quickly. Cheryl, she was in first service. She came up to me last night and she says, as long as I've been here, she goes, the one thing I've never had in my Christian walk was I've never heard the voice of God. I've never been sure that God was speaking to me. And sorry, my son just walked by praying, walking around the building praying again. I'm a blessed dad. I have a blessed life. Okay. You don't see it. Every time he goes by, it's like, and he's praying. Thanks, Aaron, for teaching him the hand swing. That was Aaron, right? The hand swing as he prays. I don't know if that's momentum to keep walking. I'm not sure. But I've heard these amazing testimonies. So Cheryl, she talked about how she's never heard the voice of God in her life until this week. She finally heard the voice of God for the first time in her life, where she was like, that's God. Okay, here's the cool thing. You've all heard the voice of God. So if you've never heard the voice of God and you're not like, all right, you've all heard the voice of God. You just don't know it's him yet. And so now she's learned that that's God speaking. If you don't know how to hear the voice of God, can I give you a practical tip? If you wonder what the heck that was about, when a thought enters your head, probably God. He usually says things that don't make any sense to you, or it's not the way you said it. Like for her, he said, you're on the right path, my child. And she's like, my child? I'm a grown woman. Like, she got offended. Like, she's like, what? And then she had to think about it, and it was like, oh, I would never say that to myself. Does that make sense? Yeah. So God does that to me all the time, where he says something, I'm like, what does that mean? And I have to think it through, and I have to, come let us reason together. So we've had some amazing stories, but let me tell you some of them. Monica healed, her shoulder healed. Amen, right? She called me this week. Come on, man. God is doing some stuff in this place. I want you to see that this is not just rhetoric. This is not just me speaking something and saying something. It's actually powerful and has the ability to break chains. It has the ability to change your life. Okay? So not only that, but she called me and she's like, I want to tell you my story. And she just went on and on with all these situations about how God has pulled her from almost nothing into something, getting a cutoff notice for a utility bill and then money just showing up out of nowhere, to the point where she's like, I've been blessed, I want to tithe. It's like from, I don't know how I'm going to pay the utility bill to I have more than enough. Come on, like that's, right? And just story after story. That my favorite one so far is, her coming to me and she was worried. She goes, I don't know how I'm going to get my stuff from Colorado. I have all this stuff. Okay, this is crazy. I didn't tell this first service, but I don't know how I'm going to get all my stuff from Colorado. I don't have the money for a moving truck. I'm not even in Colorado. Sounds a little impossible, right? Her friend calls her and they're chatting and she's like, oh, I'm coming to Oklahoma. I happen to be passing through Oklahoma City to go to Lawton. Oh, I happen to be real near your stuff. Oh, I happen to own a trailer that'll fit all your stuff. I'll just drive it to you. Wow. What? That's like one of those I told her it's like one of those bad plots in a movie where you're like, that doesn't happen. You don't just drive halfway across the country and happen to be driving through town to bring your stuff. Like that's like the coincidence where they keep meeting each other, and it's like, no, that doesn't happen. All right. So I'm like, nah. So like God is working in the lives of people. Shoshana got her back healed during this. I've heard story and story and story of other people having breakthrough in their lives. We've talked about money during this series. We've had other people who have had breakthrough in generosity places in their life, breakthrough in other areas of their life. I mean, it's been really encouraging. Let me just put it this way. If you've been blessed during this series and you've had God doing something in your life during this series, raise your hand. Amen. Look around for a second. Like, people are being blessed. It's happening. Okay? So this morning, I was encouraged. I talk every week about how I hate bringing up the M word. It's the devil, money, right? I don't talk about money. I've never talked about money. It's not something I ever talk about. So instead of talking about money, I played like a little video because I knew I needed to, but I just can't muster up the courage to do it. And I got chastised a little bit. And I got a word that said, you need to do it. So I've been praying about it, and God has given me a word for this morning. So we're not just talking about money, but it does have the subject of money in it, okay? So please understand that here's the cool thing about God is that most everything, spiritual principles, are interchangeable with everything. Relationship, money, love, forgiveness, sin, like it all ties together. So this morning, whatever you're dealing with, I want you to just plug in that, okay? Plug into that hole and you'll understand the spiritual principle. Last week we talked about the spiritual principle of first, putting God first and how it changes everything. That he's not a God of second. He won't accept second. He doesn't do second. So anything you give to him, we talked about it, it doesn't matter if you give money or don't give money. It doesn't matter if you give time or don't give time. It doesn't matter if you give love or don't give love. If you don't give it first, he won't take it. To him, he's like, no, that's not, you didn't bring first to me. I'm a God of first and I only accept first, okay? So we learned about that. This week, we're going to learn about something called the spirit of mammon. Turn to your neighbor and say mammon. Mammon. Mammon, okay? Mammon. That is not some weird way to say mama, okay? And it's not the stuff that the Israelites ate in the desert. That's manna, okay? Not to be confused with nana, okay? So we're not talking about grandparents or mothers. All right, we're talking about mammon. Okay, now the King James Version and the New King James Version are pretty much the only versions that still use the word mammon. But according to what I found, I only found 4 times the Bible uses it. Could be more, but I only found 4, okay? So don't hold me to that. But there's 4 times that I found it being used, the word mammon. Now, every other version has replaced that with the word wealth, riches, money. Okay, so those are the words that they've used in place of that. But actually, that's not quite what it really means. But let me read to you the verse that has us in. Now, we've been talking about the Sermon on the Mount, right? Jesus gives all kinds of ways to live a blessed life in the Sermon on the Mount. And he's teaching his disciples based on the Sermon on the Mount. And he repeats some stuff in this. And I just want to read it to you from Luke 16:9 through 12. It says, and I say to you, make friends for yourself by unrighteous mammon. So the first thing we learn is mammon by default is unrighteous, okay? That when you fail, they may receive you into everlasting home. So that's the first time we see mammon. He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. And he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much. Let me just say something real quick here. A lot of times in our life, we say, when I feel good, when I have more, when I have more money, when I have more time, I'll help out when I have more time. I'll do more when I have more money. I'll give more when I have more to give. We wait around till we have more, but the Bible says if you don't do it with the least, you'll never do it with the more. Okay? It doesn't matter how much more you have. It doesn't matter when you have more time. If you've conditioned yourself to never be helpful, to never be there, you'll never become generous because you have more. Generosity has nothing to do with the amount you have. Money, time, indifference, okay? So plug that into whatever. You'll never love more when you have some more love to give. That's not the way it works. See, the truth is the more love you give, the more you have to give, right? That's how it works. Therefore, if you have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches? So there's unrighteous mammon, let's call it the world's money, right? Okay, the unrighteous treasures. And then there's true riches, okay? True riches are heaven's riches, right? The blessings of heaven. True riches, world riches. So understand there's a difference there with mammon. I'm going to explain a little bit more about what mammon is. Who will commit to your trust the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in what is another man's, who will give you what is your own? Right? That basically is do unto others as they'd have you do unto you, right? Like treat my stuff the way I want you to treat my stuff, right? I'll treat your stuff the way my stuff should be treated, right? We should take care of someone else's, because if you can't take care of someone else's, what makes you think you're going to be responsible with your own? That's what he's saying, right? We think, well, I'll be more responsible with mine. It's theirs. I don't care. That's not the way God sees it, okay? So the next verse is also the same one that shows up in Matthew 6:24 in the Sermon on the Mount. And it says, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and Mammon. So it points us out. I want to point out a couple of things. Now, number one, God and Mammon. So a lot of your translations say God and money, but Mammon is much more than just money. It's much more than wealth. See, what Mammon is it is the Syrian god of riches. Okay, so the Syrians had a god, and he was the god of wealth, the god of worldly riches. Okay, and he was called Mammon. Okay, Chaldeans, and if you don't know who the Syrians are, think Babylon. Okay, so you have Babylon, which is the great city of Syria, and if you don't know what Babylon is, think of the Tower of Babel, where God separated people. And if you don't know what Babel means the word confusion. Okay, it means to be confused. And if you can't remember that, it's real easy. Sometimes people like to babble on and on and on and on. So they're probably from Babylon. Okay, so if someone is just babbling on and on, you just look at them and go, where are you from? You from Babylon? Where's that? It's Iraq? It's about Iraq? Yeah. And just wait till they get it. Some of them won't. And it's funnier that way. Just your inside joke alone. So the spirit of Mammon, understand the idea of Mammon is the whole concept of Babel, the Tower of Babel, is they were building this tower to kind of get to heaven on their own. Okay, the problem with the Tower of Babel was that they thought that they could get to heaven on their own. So they were full of pride and self-worth, right? They could do it on their own. We can get to heaven. We don't need God. So the spirit of Mammon is a prideful, arrogant spirit that says, I don't need God. I can do it. So understand that. So when I say spirit of Mammon, prideful, arrogant, I did that display a couple of weeks ago where I put the 7 deadly sins in boxes and blocked the cross, and it was super cool. And the bottom one, the foundation, was pride. Understand that pride could be replaced with the spirit of Mammon. We're going a little deeper into that message. So an arrogant, prideful spirit contrasts with God. They can't live in the same place. So let me paint this picture for you. It says that you can't serve both masters. But so many of us, including myself, we're all guilty of it. I think American culture, we're just taught, right, to American dream, keep one toe in the world and one toe to God, and try to get what's the world's and then try to get God to allow it. I think that's kind of the idea. And I'm not saying that God doesn't want you to be blessed and have things. That's not my point. My point is, where's our heart and what's our motivation? Are we after stuff, or are we after the King of Kings? The stuff is the icing. Okay? It's the extra. Seek you first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you. Are we seeking Him first or the world first? And sometimes we get confused. Let's be honest. Sometimes we get mixed up in some stuff. And I'm not doing that to chastise. This is not like a you're bad, you're sinful message. This is just trying to get you in the right order, so that, because when we chase the wrong thing, we don't get it. It doesn't happen. If you just stop focusing on that, if you get your perspective different, then the stuff you think you're going to get by doing that will come to you naturally, and you won't care. That's the cool thing. Right? That's the bad thing. Like, you want a cookie all day, and then finally you get convicted that you need to lose some weight, and someone offers you a cookie and you're like, nah, I don't care about the cookie anymore. Like, you finally get it through your head. That sucks. I'm being real, okay? All right, so we can't serve both masters. Here's what it says. It says you have to love one and hate the other. Love one and hate the other. So if you love the things of this world, what does that mean about God? What is Jesus saying? Right? I mean, this is a scary concept, so let's just take it slow. But here's the thing. It says you cannot serve both masters. And it's talking about Mammon. So what does that tell me? It tells me that Mammon is in search of servants. He's in search of people who will serve him. So he's looking for those who can serve him. See, that's why I hate the prosperity message stuff. I really do. I hate the prosperity message stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about. 2 o'clock in the morning and flipping through the channels, and there's the guy, and he's like, if you just give me $1,000, right? Put it on your credit card. Don't worry about it. I'll send you some water. So you know what I'm talking about, right? Special water, right? That's why I hate the prosperity message, because it's a mammon message. Hear me. It's a mammon message. It is the spirit of mammon ingrained, because it teaches you selfishness. It teaches you give to get, give to get, give to get. If I give, I'll get. If I give, I'll get. It's all about me and selfishness, a way for me to get. It's a spirit of mammon, okay? And so everything in our life has the opportunity to have a spirit of mammon. Anytime that it's about you, when it's selfish, it's prideful, and you don't want God in the middle of it, that is a spirit of mammon. Whether we're talking about money, forgiveness, love, sin, relationships, understand it applies to everything, okay? I'm going to try and keep this as simple as I can, because it does get a little bit theologically deep. Render unto Caesar's that which is Caesar's, and render unto God that which is God's. Jesus wanted us to separate the two because they can't live together. Our problem is so many times what we do is we render unto Caesar's that which is God's. We do. We give the world our time. We give it our devotion, right? We get the newest thing. How many of you guys have spent a ton of money on tech and then it just breaks, right? How many of you guys got a cracked screen phone? Be honest. Come on. Who's got a phone that's cracked? There's like, right? Right? You spend a fortune on a stinking cool phone and then you just break it. It's trash, right? From dust to dust it goes. These are things that we give Caesar for Caesar, and they don't hold a lot of value, do they? So we need to make sure that we're giving God what's God's. All right, so the spirit of mammon, all right, ready for this? So I'm going to explain it a little bit differently. Let me say it a different way. The spirit of mammon is the Antichrist. You ever wonder who the Antichrist is? Right? No, it's not the newest president or the last one. I'm so tired of YouTube videos trying to show me how their names add up to 666 every time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I just wasted the rest of your Sunday if you're curious. It's messed up. I'm telling you, the O represents a 12, and okay, it gets back. Wow. The spirit of mammon is the spirit of the Antichrist. See, because you can't serve two masters. Let me show you this. This is really cool. This is some cool revelation, okay? And if it's way too deep for you, I promise it'll make sense. It'll get there, okay? Revelations 13:17, okay? See, the fear of the Antichrist was not nuclear war. Watch this, Revelation 13:17. What were they afraid of? So that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. Were they afraid of nuclear war? Were they afraid of death? They're afraid of not being able to get stuff. I can't get my stuff. I can't get the S8. I can't get it. I'm going to crack the screen, but I got to have it for 3 months. I can't get it. They were afraid of not being able to have stuff. See, the spirit of mammon is the spirit of Antichrist. The idea of the world's treasures taking precedent over God. When your fear, when your worth is placed in the world, the spirit of mammon begins to take hold of you. And see, that's what he wants. Let me get the idea. Let me ask you a question. Is money the root of evil? The love of money. It's not money. Money's not evil. Look, get me right here. Money is not evil. The love of money is the root of evil. When you love it, you can't love God, right? You can't serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and money. Mammon, right? The spirit of mammon. So you can't love money because it's the root of all evil. Now, Satan is the master of evil, and love of money is the root of all evil. So when you combine those two, the love of money creates a foothold for the enemy to grab hold of your life. Hear me here. The love of money, I'm preaching to myself, I promise you. I'm not even preaching to you this morning. You're going to see. It's going to get stupid. That's why you can't serve two masters. It's the spirit. You think I'm kidding, like I'm using that as a euphorum, like, you know, just a cool word that'll buzzy. No, it's stupid. I'm an idiot. It's the spirit of the Antichrist. I'm allowed to say it to myself. Don't start calling me that. That's not nice. Hey. It's the spirit of the Antichrist himself. The spirit of mammon is idolatry. It's when you idolize something and put it above God. When you don't have him first in your life. Jesus understood that seeking the things of this world will rob you of a blessed life in the world after. It will rob you of it. When you focus on the things of this world, it actually robs you of the things of this world. It's exactly contrary. You don't get any of it. Okay, and he understood that. If you had more, let me get this. If ask, come on, we've all said this. We've all said these things. If I had more money, I'd be happier. If I just had more money, I'd be happier. right? If I had more money, then I would have a better marriage. We wouldn't fight over the finances. Not so much stress, right? If we just didn't have any money problems, our marriages would be better. If I just had more money, I'd have more influence over people. They don't take me seriously because I'm not successful enough. If I just had more money, how many of you guys have said this? If I just had more money, I could help more people. If you don't do it with nothing, you'll never do it with something. You don't need money to help someone. You don't need money to pull over on the side of the road and help that guy. Let him borrow your cell phone. You don't need money to begin to do that. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's kind of an anti-money message, so to speak. Jesus said if you're not faithful with the small things in life, you'll never be faithful with more. So there's this story called the story of the talents, or the bags of gold. And I want to read this to you. Matthew 25:14-30. It says, again, it will be like a man going on a journey who calls his servants and entrusts his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, and to another he gave 2 bags of gold, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received the 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. So the other 2 guys doubled the money, right? It's a good investment. I'm looking for this guy. I need to talk to him. Okay, but the other guy digs it in the ground. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you've entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I've gained you 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here's what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest, right? Got to get your 1%, right? So take the bag of gold. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever, listen to this, for whoever will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw the worthless servant outside into darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Even the one that doesn't have, he's going to take it away. There's a spiritual principle Jesus wants you to understand today. I don't know what I'm going to call it. The principle of getting less than nothing. But let me teach you what it is. You've heard it said before that God won't give you more than you can handle. Okay, right? People say that all the time. All right. First of all, that's not even close to true. Like Moses couldn't handle parting a Red Sea or any of the stuff he did. God will never give you more than you can handle without him. Okay, he has to be involved. He'll definitely give you bigger tasks than you're capable of handling, trust me, because he wants you to rely on him. But let's just take for a minute what they're talking about. God will never give you more trouble than you can handle. That's what everyone's always talking about, right? You face some tragedy, and he says, I'll never give you more than you can. It's okay, God will never give you more than you can handle. I read the Bible. I haven't read where God gives me destruction, where he messes up my life, where he's not the God of chaos and confusion. He doesn't give me bad things. He's the God, giver of good gifts, right? So if that's true, and he doesn't give me disease and death and torment and suffering, then he gives me blessing and increase in love and mercy and grace and forgiveness. Those are the things he gives, right? Forgiveness, grace, mercy, love, increase, blessing, treasures in heaven, his spirit. Those are the things that God will never give you more than you can handle. We better rethink how we look at this real quick. So if God will never give you more than you can handle, God will never give you more wealth than you can handle. He will never give you more. How many of you guys carry cash on you? I try not to carry cash, right? I try not to carry cash because like I get it all bundled up in my pocket, right? And then I reach in, I got my phone at this side, my keys on this side, and then I reach in and get my phone and like a $20 bill drops there all crumbled up on the floor and money just runs away. Okay, it just falls on the ground, right? And if I don't learn how to handle that money and put it in my wallet correctly or save it correctly, it's never gonna stay with me, okay? So if I can't handle the money, it's going to leave me. God will never give you more wealth than you can handle. Here's the thing. God will never give you more influence over other people than you can handle. He'll never give you more opportunity than you can handle. He'll never give you more friends than you can handle. He will never give you more ministry than you can handle. He'll never give you more status. He'll never give you more fame than you can handle. He won't give that to you if you are not a good steward of what he gave you already. He will never give you more if you can't prove with the small things that you can handle it. See, the spirit of Mammon wants to give you more. See, because here's the thing. God said in his word, pressed down, shaken together, overflowing. God wants to overflow us. But the spirit of Mammon is different. The spirit of Mammon doesn't want to overflow you. It wants to bottle you inside. Because see, when you get full of the spirit of Mammon, you begin to puff up with pride. Ooh. Right? Like the blueberry girl on Willy Wonka. Right? Too much blueberry. Now I want to sing the Oompa Loompa song really bad. Oompa Loompa Doopa. Okay, we're getting back to it. All right. I had to get it out or it wasn't going to leave. All right. So he's never going to give you more than you can handle. The spirit of Mammon wants to puff you up with pride. Why? Because pride comes before the fall. See, the spirit of Mammon is the spirit of the Antichrist. It is the enemy. The enemy comes to seek who he may devour, to steal, kill, and destroy. He's interested in puffing you up with pride and puffing you up so that you'll fall. That's his ultimate goal, is to devour you. See, here's the interesting thing. You're wondering why you don't have blessing and increase in your life, and you're looking around and going, why is my bank account empty? Why don't I have any money? Here's the thing about money I want you to understand. Ready? Money doesn't have battered spouse syndrome, okay? It runs from people that abuse it. All right? It is not having battered spousal syndrome. Let me say it one more time. It runs from people who abuse it. Okay? See, love doesn't have battered spousal syndrome. It knows to run from people that abuse it. Your friendships will run from you if you're abusive. Your relationships will run from you if you're abusive. Those things in your life that you want so much, if you are abusive to them, if you don't grow to the level that allows you to handle them, they will flee from you. That's why we're lacking. That's where blessing goes away. We want so much, but we just break it, right? I'm seeing that little girl and she's like, I just love you and squish you and hug you and pops out the, oh, there's kids in the room, I won't say it. You know what I'm saying, right? Loves the little puppy so much, a little bunny, whatever it is, so much, right? Okay? Couldn't handle it, that thing wanted to run. Caleb does that. He'll like grab the dog and he won't let go, and the dog is trying to get away from him. Yes. And I'm like, you gotta learn how to handle the dog right. Okay, and the dog wants to run away. So here's the thing. Okay, ready? I'm gonna tell on it. Ready? The church is not exempt from that. So if you sit there and go, oh yeah, you want to talk, right? The church is not exempt from that. Have you ever been hurt by a church? Anybody in here ever been hurt by a church? Right? Come on, praise Jesus. Right? We're not praising. We're just being honest. Okay? I've been hurt by churches. Churches are not exempt from that. You ready for this? See, churches, a lot of times us pastors and churches and stuff, we suffer from the spirit of Mammon too. Don't get me wrong. Church is not exempt. Churches are just as guilty of serving Mammon. Loving influence. They're in love with influence. They're in love with wealth. They're in love with ministry success. They're in love with numbers. They're in love with putting their identity in that. Right? We've had this many people and we had this much and look how much we've grown and look at our facility, right? We're just as guilty of loving the numbers, loving those things. The spirit of Mammon is just as much prevalent in churches. We're not exempt from it. None of us are exempt from it. This is something that we all suffer from. So let me tell you something. Here's the thing. I'm not just giving you a message asking you to give. That's actually, I haven't asked that at all. That's not what this is about at all. You need to learn to stop abusing the things that God wants you to handle. So when it comes to the money part, tonight at 7 o'clock, our first full in-depth class of flipping your finances happens. This is a class where we're going to teach you how to handle your finances. We're going to teach you how, man, I know so many people that have so much more than me and have so much less with so much more. I mean, they just have resources come in, and I've watched them not handle them, and then watch them dry up on them. I know this is a spiritual prayer. I've watched it. If God has blessed you and then you are a bad steward with that, eventually he'll just say, I can't give it to you. Okay, so 7 o'clock, financial freedom, flipping your finances. We were going to teach you how to do your budget, teach you what your credit means, teach you how to handle your business, teach you so that you can be a master of much more. Okay, and money will like you again. Your spouse will like you again.
Where's that at?
The number one cause of divorce is finances. Right here, 7 o'clock right here. But listen to this in Matthew 7:24 through 27. We're going to teach you how to get your finances out of the hands of Mammon, okay? That's the whole point. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. So we're at the end of the Sermon on the Mount. All the things he said about a blessed life, all the things he said about wealth and mammon and God, all right, now he's saying this is the conclusion of that. Therefore, everyone who hears the words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Say rock. Rock. The rain came down, rock kazak, right? The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat up against the house. Yet it did not fall because it had a foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. Say sand. Yeah. The rain came down and the streams rose and the winds blew and beat against the house and it fell with a great crash. Here's the secret to a blessed life. Are you ready? Yeah. Are you ready for it? Here's the secret. A person that's blessed doesn't have any less storms than you do. Come on. A person that's blessed versus a person that's not has the same storms. They have the same tragedy. They have the same hurts, the same heartaches, the same situations, the same backstabbers, the same cheaters. The difference is that when the storm comes, they put their faith on a rock and they stand through it while you get blown away. Come on. Some of you are asking for God to open up the windows of heaven and flood your life, but your life is built on the sand, and God's saying, I can't because it's going to blow you away. My blessing is too much because you're not on the rock. Wow. You need to listen to what God is saying. Get yourself on the rock so you're ready to grow, ready to have blessing, ready to be the full value of what God intended you to be. So someone else might look at you and go, why are you so different? How come every time a storm comes in your life, you're still here? You're still upright. You're still standing. How do you overcome through everything when I get washed away? Because my house is on a rock, and his name is Jesus Christ. Gosh. It's not a storm-free life. Let me try this one. See if you're guilty like me. I promise I'm telling on myself right now. I'd give, 22 years as a Christian, and most of that time, even as a minister, I am guilty. I'm a Jew. If you guys don't know that by race, okay? And if you guys are not aware, I'm going to give you a couple of insider tips. If you want to kill a Jew, like me and my sister, you would just throw a penny between us and watch us fight to the death. Okay? I'm not being honorary, I'm just being truthful. Every time a bird flies over our head, it's cheap, cheap, cheap. Okay? There's not a lot of racial stereotypes that are true, but I find this one to be true. At least in every circle I've been in, okay? So there's this inherent ability built into all of us to somehow be like frugal and good stewards. I don't know if it's all those years in the desert or all those years in slavery, but you know what I mean? You know, like your grandparents that lived through the Great Depression and they save everything, right? Okay, so we like have genetically in us desert, suffering, bondage, desert, bondage, desert, bondage, suffering, blessing, suffering. Okay, so it's been ingrained, okay? Don't blame me. So what I've learned is I don't like my money wasted. I cannot stand it if my money is not treated properly. I cannot stand churches that waste my money. That's why the midnight preachers, man, if you tell me to give you some more money so you can buy a third jet, come on, what? I am furious. I have no interest in giving you my money if you waste it. And let me tell you that that goes into me as a preacher. We had to get the air conditioner fixed, and we paid to have it fixed, and the first fix didn't stick. And I was like upset because I'm like, somebody in our church finally dug deep and said, for the first time, I'm going to write this check, and I'm just going to bless the church, and I'm going to do it. And then we just threw it away. And I'm like, I can't stand that. What? It infuriates me, and I can't seem to break free of that. And so I try to be a good steward of the resources that come in. But here's how I was as a giver, is that if I didn't think that church was going to be a good steward, I don't like what they're spending money on. I'm only writing my check to a specific thing. I'm giving it to that thing, or I'm buying what I think the church needs. I'm going to go take it to them. Here, you can have this because you need it. That is a good use of my money. And so I would only give towards specific things, right? Kids are going to youth camp, I'll sponsor a kid, I'll pay that way, but I'm not just giving you money to waste my money and blow it on whatever you think you need to blow it on. And that was my attitude. And that really was my attitude. Maybe a lot of us are like that. That was my attitude. I've done better about it, but it was still in me, and I realized something. It's the spirit of Mammon in me. It was the spirit of Mammon in me. And I want the spirit of Mammon to break. I want selfishness. I want pride to break. I want unforgiveness to break. I want these things in my life to break. It's the spirit of Mammon. Let me explain it to you. If you get frustrated how the church spent its money, did you give it to God or give it to man? Whose is it? Is it God's or is it yours? Why are you frustrated over what belongs to God? Why would you ever be frustrated over what belongs to God? If it's God's, then you give it to him and you don't worry about what man does with it. I'd frustrate. See, here's the thing. If you have stress in your life, if you're stressed over a situation, it means that you own it. It means that you have not given it to God.
That's so true.
That's good.
You're still in possession of it. If you're frustrated, if you're angry over a situation, it means that you still are in control of it. You still have a selfish control over that situation in your life, because if it's God's, it's not your problem.
Yep.
If it was God's anyways, why would you be frustrated over what someone else does with God's stuff? That's God's, not your problem, right? So I realized by holding on to that, in this money situation, by holding on to that, I was saying it's still mine to do with what I want. Instead of saying it's just God's, I don't care. I don't care. God can deal with that church or that ministry however he wants to do. God, your blessing doesn't change because the other side of it messed up.
Right.
You gave it to God. But if you're angry or you're upset and you're looking, you didn't.
Right. Amen.
You didn't give him first fruits. You're holding on to it. You're holding on to it. I needed that to break in me. Here's the thing. I understand that fear. I understand that fear. We're about to get a bigger building. I know what that looks like. If I worry about that or what's going to come in or our tithe is going to be like, it's mine. I own it. And if it's God's, it needs to be God. So it's about to get crazy up in here. See, something broke in me last week. Something changed in me forever. I'm going to get really serious here. I'm going to get really serious. Something changed in me last week. See, we read the story about the Mary that came and wept at the feet of Jesus, and she took the jar of alabaster, right? She took the jar of alabaster and she broke it at the feet of Jesus. And immediately the disciples said, "Why waste that? Why waste that? How wasteful are you? That was a year's salary and you just wasted it on nothing. We could have sold that and fed the poor." See, that's me. I'm guilty. Right here. We could have sold that. That was wasteful. I'm like the disciples. Who in the world do they think they are telling the King of Kings what he can do with his church? Jesus is standing right there and they're trying to control it. They're trying to control it. And I'm guilty of that. I'm trying to control it. It's God's, not mine. And if Jesus doesn't have a problem with it, why do I? So he says, How wasteful are you? That could have been sold and given to the poor. Yeah, it could have. Right? But too many times we're thinking about earth. See, Mary did something stupid, crazy. According to the world, she wasted it at the feet of Jesus. Here's the thing, if you give it to the poor, you can give it to church, and then they can sell it, so you've helped church and man, right? You've helped both. But see, Mary did something unbelievable that's changed me. I finally got it. It clicked. It registered. She gave it just to God. Not first, but only. What have you only given to God? What do you co-share with other things? You can't serve two masters. See, Mary understood that day that maybe in her life she served two masters. And she decided to do something crazy and break the other one. So for her, this was a big deal. She took an alabaster jar, which was worth a lot of money, and she used it on Jesus and gave it to him. And Jesus said, everywhere disciples go, they will tell the story of this woman who gave selfishly and broke the spirit of Mammon on her life. So I'm gonna do something really stupid. This is for me, okay? And I don't want anybody to duplicate this. I'm not asking anybody to do. This is important to me. So I have a watch here, and I never wear it. It just sits in my safe. It's a little bit too small for me, but I never wear it because it's a Rolex. And see, someone gave it to me a long time ago, and I'm gonna stand real still so the camera can zoom in and see that it's a Rolex. But it's a Rolex. And it was given to me a long time ago, and I just don't think pastors should wear Rolexes. Like, it just sends the wrong message, so I never wear it. But I keep it in my safe because it's got value to it, and I can use it in a rainy day, right? It's something that has value that I can use. But see, to me, it represents Mammon in my life, trying to control things. And I just, for one time in my life, wanted to give God something that there was no ulterior motive for, and there was nothing to do with the world, and that it had nothing but just giving it to God. A burnt offering, a sacrifice of praise, something that was just from my heart, so that I never again would try to pick up what's God's and control what's mine. You know, the city of Jericho, they destroyed it and they burnt everything. They took nothing. And I'm always like, wow, that's wasteful. Like, that's my spirit. And I just for once want to be stupid. I for once want to just surrender and break that spirit in my life. And I don't know what this means to you, but I mean, this one wasn't my favorite watch. I mean, I didn't like it all that much anyways. I like the diver watch better because you can like submerge that in water. This one you can just get a little wet, but you can't submerge it in water. It'll ruin it. You know what? God put it on my spirit, and this morning I picked up this watch and I was looking at it and I said, you know, that really looks a lot prettier than I remember. And I put it on and I'm like, hey, if I just lose 10 more pounds, that'll fit okay. And that spirit, right, that Lord of the Rings, my precious, right, started to look and it started to call to me, the spirit of Mammon, saying, is it mine or is it yours? Do you believe what you're saying? So here's the thing. If you've been one of those that wonder, you know, is church all just about money? Do they just want my money? Do they just want me to give? Do they just want, you know, so they can have more and stuff? You will never, ever question that again, that this pastor doesn't care about wealth, doesn't care about money. He cares about you understanding the principles that will lead you to a blessed life. So much so that I'm going to let it go. I don't need a Rolex. I don't need a safety net. And I don't need the spirit of Mammon in my life. What are you holding on to? Can I get my drill? What are you holding on to? I just, maybe some of you guys are like, he's lying, it's waterproof. I don't want to look at it. Now it's trash. If you thought it was waterproof, it ain't now. When Jesus walks in the room, nothing else matters. When Jesus walks in the room, sitting at his feet is the only thing that matters. And whatever treasures I have will go there, right there at his feet. What spirit is on you this morning? Bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, God, break our hearts for what breaks yours. Tear out of our lives the things that separate us from you. Take the things that control us, God, away. I lay it at your feet. Teach me what it means to love. Teach me what it means to not abuse love, to not abuse friends, to not abuse relationships, to not abuse wealth, to not abuse the things of this world, because I'm so focused on you. That's all that matters. It's yours. And I'll never pick it up again. Because if I'm angry about it, it was never yours. If I'm frustrated over it, if I'm stressed over it, it was never yours. I was the one in control. I was the one building the Tower of Babel. I was the one with the spirit of Mammon.